Okay. Yesterday we have discussed about the life cycle of a malarial parasite, that is the Plasmodium. Okay, which is a protozoan parasite, and it is a digenetic parasite. It completes its life cycle in two hosts. One is a female Anopheles mosquito, and the second one is a human. Okay, in the human, it undergoes a sexual cycle. Female Anopheles mosquito, it undergoes sexual cycle. So the female Anopheles mosquito is called as the primary host, and the human is considered as the secondary host or intermediate host. Okay, that is. And next, today we'll discuss about another protozoan parasite, that is Entamoeba histolytica. Okay, Entamoeba histolytica, it is a protozoan parasite in the large intestine of human, which causes amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery. So that means when you observe this Entamoeba histolytica, it is a protozoan parasite. That means it belongs to protozoa. Okay, and it is the endoparasite which lives in the large intestine of human. Primarily, it lives in the large intestine of human. Okay, while it is infest the large intestine, it causes a disease called amoebiasis, which is also called amoebic dysentery. Here, one thing you have to remember, what is meant by dysentery. Okay, dysentery means if the fecal matter consists of blood with mucus. Okay, if the fecal matter, if a person excretes blood with mucus, the feces, okay, then such a condition we are calling it as a dysentery. As this dysentery is caused by Entamoeba histolytica, we are calling it as amoebic dysentery, or simply we can also call it as amoebiasis. Okay, that is. And next, the symptoms of this disease include constipation. That means the person finds difficult in defecation. Okay, and abdominal pain. Okay, because it is causing damage to the large intestine. So there will be a problem with the digestive system. So it leads in abdominal pain and cramps. Okay, and cramps. Okay, stools means here feces, the undigested food material. That is what we call feces, or we can also call it as stools. Stools with excess mucus and blood clots. That's what I said. Okay, that is why we are calling it as a dysentery. Okay, because the feces or the stools are excreted along with the large amount of mucus and blood. Okay, that is the first and very important symptom that we observe with the amoebic dysentery. Okay, that is. And next, how the disease is transmitted from one person to another person means through houseflies. Houseflies act as mechanical carriers and serve to transmit the parasite from feces of infected person to food material. Okay, food and food products, thereby contaminating them. That means these houseflies, okay, if a person undergoes defecation outside, okay, if he is suffering from amoebic dysentery, okay, these houseflies will go and lay on that feces. Okay, and these houseflies comes in contact with this the cyst of this Entamoeba histolytica, the cyst of Entamoeba histolytica. Okay, and these cysts attached to the body of these houseflies. When these houseflies which are contaminated with this cyst of Entamoeba histolytica, when it comes and lays on the food materials which are not properly covered, they transfer this cyst onto the food materials. Okay, that's why. Okay, our elders will say, okay, eat the food on hot. When they are hot, you have to eat. Okay, if it is cooled and not properly covered, means these flies and mosquitoes will come and lay on that, and they helps in, okay, and they get contaminated with this disease causing organisms which are transmitted by this house flies and mosquitoes or some other organisms. So the food materials should be properly covered, and if you are eating the raw food materials, okay, you have to wash it thoroughly. After thorough wash only we have to eat the food materials. Okay, so that is, so they are transmitted through house flies. Okay, and these organisms are transferred onto the food material, and the food material is contaminated. When such contaminated food is taken by the person, the organism, the disease causing organisms will enter into our body, and they develop inside the body, and finally they reach the large intestine and they cause infection in the large intestine. Okay, and drinking water and food fecal matter are the main source of infection. So the food, okay, the food and the drinking water which are contaminated with these organisms by these house flies are the primary source of the disease causing organism. Okay, and infection, okay, that means the disease causing organism will enter into our body through this contaminated water and food. So this contaminated food and water as is the primary source of this disease causing organism. Okay, that is about this Entamoeba histolytica. Anybody is having any doubt?
No, sir.
And next, helminthic parasites. Okay, helminthic parasites. Okay, we'll discuss some of the helminthic parasites. Okay, in that the first one is Ascaris, which is commonly called as a roundworm. Okay, Ascaris, the common roundworm, and Ocreria, the filarial worm. Okay, are some of the helminths which known to be pathogenic to human or man. Okay, so this Ascaris, okay, the most commonly occurred diseases in case of human by helminths caused by Ascaris, which is commonly called as roundworm, and Ocreria, which is also called as a filarial worm. Okay, so we'll discuss about this. Okay, first when you observe the Ascaris, okay, it's a complete, okay, its scientific name is Ascaris lumbricoides. Okay, Ascaris lumbricoides. So Ascaris, an intestinal parasite, causes ascariasis. So the disease caused by the Ascaris, we call it as ascariasis. Okay. And next, symptoms of these disease include internal bleeding, because as it causes infection to the small intestine, so it ruptures the wall of the intestine, so it leads to internal bleeding. And next we'll observe muscular pain. Why? Because the person becomes weak. Why? Because Okay, whatever the food material that we take, that is taken by this roundworms only, which are living in the small intestine. Instead of it is absorbed into our bloodstream. Okay, all these nutrients are used up by these parasites that are present in the small intestine. As a result, the person will not get sufficient nutrients. Okay, as it is prolonged for a longer period, it leads to weakness, development of weakness person. So that's why it results in muscular pain, fever, anemia, because the nutrients are not sufficient. No, so the blood formation also reduces, so it leads to anemia and a blockage of intestinal passage, because a large number of worms will be present inside the intestine. So this worms, what they will do means they obstruct the flow of food material inside the intestine, so causing abdominal pain. Okay, so it results in blockage of the intestinal passage. Okay, usually the ascaris, the ascaris will lay about 2 lakhs of eggs per day. Okay, why? Because these eggs will comes out of the feces. Okay, comes out of the feces, and the development will take place outside the body. The larval forms are formed, and finally again some stage of the larva will be entered into our body through contaminated food and water, and further development takes place in the stomach and finally reaches the small intestine and develops into adult and causes the disease again. So the eggs of the parasite are excreted along with the feces of infected person, which contaminate soil, water, plants, etc. A healthy person acquires this infection through contaminated water, vegetables, fruits, etc. So how the disease is entered into our body means, okay, it is entered into our body through contaminated food, water, vegetables, fruits, etc. Okay, which are contaminated by the flies, mosquitoes, cockroaches, and all that. So because that means where we'll find this defecation outside, there we can observe this disease regularly. Okay, so to prevent this one, the food materials should be properly covered, and the food materials should be properly washed before they are intaken. Okay, that is how this ascaris causes infection. Okay, it causes infection to the small intestine. Next one is a Ochraria. Okay, there are 2 major species of this Ochraria. There is Ochraria bancrofti and Ochraria malai. Ochraria bancrofti and Ochraria malai. Okay, the filarial worms cause a slowly developing chronic inflammation of the organs in which they live for many years, usually the lymphatic vessels of the lower limbs, and the disease is called elephantiasis or filariasis. So where this worm will live means, okay, this worm usually lives in the lymph vessels. Okay, a large number of worms or filarial worms are living in the lymph vessels, and the flow of lymph in the lymph vessels. As a result, they block the passage of lymph. As a result, some of the tissues, especially which are present far away, those bodies, okay, those organs will not get sufficient nutrients. As a result, these organs, okay, or these tissues gradually undergoes death, and this dead tissue is slowly pushed outside. As a result, it causes inflammation, that is swelling of the body parts, especially the limbs, lower limbs. Okay, you can see in the picture, okay, the legs is inflamed really, along with the scrotal sacs. Okay, we can see the scrotal sacs because they are also having this lymph vessels. So whenever these lymph vessels are inflamed, okay, it leads to the inflammation of the body parts. Okay, so and this inflammation of lower limbs and other organs results in a increase in the thickness of the body part, and this, okay, as a result, the limbs look like a elephant leg. That's why named as elephantiasis. As it is caused by the filarial worm, we are calling it as a filariasis. Okay, here we can see the genital organs are also often affected, resulting in deformities. Okay, so the infection may spread from limbs to the genital organs also. As a result, the genital organs also get inflamed. As a result, the functioning of the genital organs is also affected. And next, the pathogens are transmitted to a healthy person through the bite by the female mosquito vectors. That is the Culex mosquito. The female Culex mosquito is a vector, is acting as a vector in the transmission of the disease, filariasis, from one person to another person. Okay, that is okay. That is about this elephantiasis, that is Wuchereria bancrofti or Wuchereria malai. Two major species which are causing a filariasis is Wuchereria bancrofti, Wuchereria malai. Where these organisms usually lives means they live in the lymph vessels and affect the lymph vessels, and they block the passage of a lymph in the lymph vessels, which results in a inflammation of lower limbs. Okay, sometimes the infection may spread to genital organs. As a result, the genital organs are also affected. How the disease is transmitted means the filariasis is transmitted from one person to another person through bite of a female Culex mosquito, which act as a vector in the okay, that is about this elephantiasis. Anybody is having any doubt regarding elephantiasis? Okay, next coming to the fungal infection. Fungal infections, okay, that means the
Sir, how to cure this disease, sir?
Okay, later we'll discuss in together. Okay, together we'll discuss in a broad manner. Okay, all the diseases. Okay, there is no permanent cure, but when you identify in the early days, once the inflammation is done, there is no cure. But identify the disease before inflammation occurred, then okay, we have got some medicines. Okay, by using that medicines, we can kill this filarial worm in the lymph vessels. Okay, but once the inflammation is happened, then there is no, okay, the person has to live throughout his life with that inflamed limbs. But before inflammation, okay, if you have identified the disease, then we can cure it. Okay, the best way is a prevention. So we have to prevent the bite of mosquitoes. Okay, that is by
Yes, sir.
using nets or by using repellents. Okay, repellents or creams, or okay, destroying the breeding places of mosquitoes. Like that, preventive steps are there. That one we'll discuss later of fungal infections in general. Okay, and next, many fungi belonging to the genera Microsporum. Okay, many fungi belonging to the genera Microsporum, okay, Trichophyton and Epidermophyton are responsible for ringworms, which is one of the most common infectious diseases in man. Okay, okay, that means that the fungi belonging to the genera Microsporum, Trichophyton and Epidermophyton. Okay, these three genera, the fungi belonging to these three genera are mainly responsible for the occurrence of ringworm. Ringworm means it is not a helminth. Remember, okay, it is caused because of the fungal infection. Okay, because of the fungal infection, okay, it develops a ring-like structures. Okay, ring-like structures on the regions where this fungi are infected. That's why they were calling it as a ringworm. Okay. Okay, appearance of dry scaly lesions on various parts of the body such as skin, nails and scalp are the main symptoms of the disease. That means generally these fungal infections are observed in the regions where regularly moisture is maintained. Where moisture is regularly maintained. Okay, that is on the skin of the neck. Okay, and next below the shoulders. Okay, at the groin, that is okay, at the waist region. Okay? And next in between the girdles, girdler region. Okay, like this. Okay, at the regions where we'll find okay, regularly some moisture is maintained. Okay, like skin, nails and scalp. Scalp means on the head. Okay, we'll find no dandruff. Okay, the dandruff is also caused because of this fungal infection only. That's why you have to regularly clean your, okay, you have to clean your scalp. Otherwise, okay, because of pollution, okay, and all that, okay, different chemicals are placed on your scalp, which will favor the growth of this fungi, which will causes the scaling. That means the outer layer is removed because of this fungal infection. That's what he's saying. Okay, appearance of dry scaly lesions on various parts of the body such as skin, nails and scalp are the main symptoms of the disease. Okay, and these lesions are intense itching. So that means the lesions, that means some wound like structures are developed, small wounds, and these wounds, okay, they will cause severe itching. As a result, what the person will start scraping. When they scrap, what happens? This fungi will be entered into your nails or entered into your nails. And if you place that hand in some other parts of your body, okay, it will be transmitted to that other parts of the body. Or okay, and you will handle with some articles, and through that articles they get transmitted to other persons also. Okay, that is so these lesions are accompanied by intense itching, and these heat and moisture help these fungi to grow. So in the regions where moisture is continuously Okay, and in the folds, okay, we'll find a little bit more temperature, hot conditions, a little bit of hot or heat is generated more, and because of the moisture, it will favor the growth of this fungi. Okay, heat and moisture help the fungi to grow, which makes them thrive in skin folds, such as those in the groin or between the toes. Groin means between the legs. Okay, and next below the shoulders. And next toes, generally we'll observe in between the toes. Okay. Okay, in between the toes. Okay, we'll find this infections. And next, okay, ringworms are generally acquired from soil using towels, clothes, or even the comb of infected individuals. Okay, that is because okay, suppose if the infection of this, okay, if the fungal infection is present on the scalp, then what happens? The person will comb and okay, leave it. And if the same comb is used by another person, now with the help of, okay, this through the comb, okay, the disease is getting transmitted, or by the articles that are used by that person, like towels, clothes. Okay, through that the fungus is getting transmitted from one person to another person and causing the disease or spread of the disease. Okay, okay, so in some people we can see, no, okay, when you observe the beard, at some places they will lose the hair and it will be like patches. Okay, that is also because of the fungal infection. Okay, it is also a type of ringworm. Okay, and we'll find some white color patches on the skin. Okay, patches like arranged, okay, irregularly on the skin of the body. Okay, that is also because of this ringworm, which is a fungal infection. Okay, so, and next, how we can able to prevent these infections, these common diseases. The first and foremost is a maintenance of personal and public hygiene is very, very important for prevention and control of many infectious diseases. Okay, we have got infectious diseases and non-infectious diseases. No problem with the non-infectious diseases because they'll be acquiring by their own. Okay, so there is no problem with the non-infectious diseases. But when it comes to infectious diseases, okay, the infectious disease, we can prevent and control the spread of the disease by adopting to certain personal and public hygiene methods. Okay, that means each and every individual by his own has to maintain certain hygiene, and at the same time he also has to keep his surroundings also hygiene. There is a personal hygiene and public hygiene, so that he can prevent and control the spread of the disease, especially the infections. And next, measures for personal hygiene include keeping the body clean. So he has to clean his body regularly. Okay, personal hygiene. Okay, cleaning the teeth properly, washing the mouth properly, and next, okay, and next, taking bath regularly. Okay, washing his face. Okay, and next, whenever he do anything, okay, he has to wash his hands properly. So all these we have to take into consideration. Measures for personal hygiene including keeping the body clean. Okay, and next, the consumption of clean drinking water, because already we said a lot of disease causing organisms are spread through contaminated food and water. Okay, we can see now typhoid. Okay, and next Entamoeba histolytica, Ascaris. Okay, these are okay the diseases which are spread through contaminated food, water, vegetables, fruits, and all that. So while you are taking these food, water, and food, okay, we have to keep that these food are safe. Make sure that the food materials are safe. Okay, water, food, vegetables. Okay, so all the so that we can reduce the infection. Completely we can't avoid, because the disease causing organism might be present inside. If we clean even outside also, what we can do? We can't do anything. So we can reduce the impact of okay the transmission or transmission of the disease by regularly cleaning up. And next, the public hygiene. Public hygiene includes a proper disposal of waste and excreta. So in our house, a lot of excreta and waste materials are generated. That should be properly. Okay, that means, okay, we should not go defecation outside. We should not do the defecation outside. Okay, the excreta should be properly disposed. And next, okay, and we have to, okay, and whatever the waste that is generated in our house, that should be properly disposed. And next, periodic cleaning and disinfection of reservoirs. Okay, that means the water reservoirs will be there, no? Okay, overhead tanks, the reservoirs. Okay, okay, in the okay, we'll find tanks, ponds, lakes. All they should be properly maintained. Okay, we have to see that. Okay, the water. Okay, water should be properly protected and should not form the place for a breeding of these insects. Okay, that is a periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools, and tanks, and observing standard practices of hygiene in public catering. Public catering, that means if you want to take food outside, okay, we have to select the places where the food is served in a hygienic condition. Okay, those will practice hygienic conditions. There only we have to take the food material so that we can reduce the infections. And next, these measures are particularly essential where the infectious agents are transmitted through food and water, such as typhoid, amoebiasis, and ascariasis. So that means in the regions where we'll find mostly this typhoid, ascariasis or amoebiasis, in those areas we have to take utmost proper care. Okay, we have to take utmost proper care so that we can prevent the spread of these infections. Okay, in case of airborne as a pneumonia and common cold. Okay, in case of airborne diseases such as pneumonia and common cold. Okay, in addition to the above measures, close contact with the infected persons or their belongings should be avoided. That means those diseases which are easily transmitted through air. Okay, like common cold, like okay, and like diphtheria, pneumonia. Okay, all okay. Regarding these, we have to take a very utmost care because they can be transmitted through the articles that were used by the infected persons also. So we have to take utmost care so that we should not come in contact with those belongings of the infected persons. Okay. And next, for diseases such as malaria and filariasis that are transmitted through insect vectors, the most important measure is to control or eliminate the vectors and their breeding places. So if you want to control diseases like malaria and filariasis, which are transmitted through vectors like mosquitoes. So what we have to do means the first and foremost is we have to eliminate the vectors and their breeding places. Okay.